Imagine two husbands. Both love their wives, both work hard, both dream of growing old with the woman they married. Yet 20 years later, one marriage is filled with laughter, friendship, and mutual admiration. The other is painfully quiet. The husband and wife still live under the same roof. They still eat at the same table. They still attend family gatherings together. But emotionally, they became strangers years ago. What happened? Was there betrayal? Not necessarily. Financial collapse? Not always. A lack of love? Perhaps not. Sometimes the greatest enemy of a marriage is something far less dramatic. It cannot be seen. It rarely announces itself. It whispers instead of shouting. It convinces a husband that apologizing makes him weak, that admitting mistakes diminishes his authority. That compromise is surrender. That saying I was wrong cost too much. Its name is pride. An old Persian proverb warns, pride makes a man blind to his own faults. That is the tragedy of pride. It does not merely damage relationships. It prevents the person causing the damage from seeing it. Many marriages do not fail because husbands stop loving their wives. They fail because pride slowly replaces humility. And once pride takes control, every disagreement becomes a contest instead of a conversation. That is why the fourth timeless law of a successful marriage is this: the strongest husband is not the one who always appears right. It is the one who values the relationship more than his ego. Special greetings to all Guild members around the world. Today we shall be looking into the fourth law in the ongoing series of the 10 best timeless secrets every matured husband must live by in order to build and sustain a peaceful and harmonious home and marriage. Pride, the silent killer of a marriage. But before then, may I ask you to please take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Also tap on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Thank you. On a first point of note, let's examine closely the principle on which pride operates. Pride always demands a winner. Every argument quietly asks one question: what matters most right now? Your ego or your marriage? Pride always chooses ego, but wisdom always chooses the relationship. Many husbands mistakenly believe leadership means never backing down, but history tells us something very different. The greatest leaders in every field, whether military, political, business, or family, have always possessed one uncommon strength. They were willing to correct themselves. Leadership is not the absence of mistakes. Leadership is the courage to acknowledge them. Marriage works the same way. When a husband refuses to admit error simply because he fears looking weak, something subtle begins to happen. Trust begins to disappear. Respect slowly erodes. Communication becomes cautious. His wife learns that honesty may be punished instead of welcomed. Eventually, she stops bringing difficult conversations to him altogether. Not because the problems disappeared, but because she no longer believes they can be discussed safely. Marriage researchers have consistently found that successful couples are distinguished not by the absence of mistakes, but by their willingness to make sincere repair attempts. Genuine apologies, expressions of accountability, and efforts to reconnect after conflict are among the strongest predictors of long-term relationship satisfaction. In other words, healthy marriages are not built by perfect husbands. They are built by humble ones. Now, as point number 2, let's closely examine why pride is so deceptive. The danger of pride is that it often disguises itself as strength. A husband may say, I refuse to apologize because I know I'm right. He believes he is protecting his dignity, but what he may actually be protecting is his insecurity. Emotionally mature men understand something powerful. There is a profound difference between confidence and pride. Confidence says, I know my worth. Pride says, I must always prove it. Confidence allows room for learning. Pride refuses correction. Confidence builds relationships. Pride builds walls. An old Turkish proverb wisely says, the axe forgets, but the tree remembers. A husband may forget the harsh words he used in an argument. His wife may carry those memories for years. That is why wise husbands guard both their words and their pride. As point number 3. Here is the best practice. Learn the power of 4 simple words. There are 4 words that have rescued more marriages than almost any sophisticated communication technique. Sorry, I was wrong. Not I'm sorry you feel that way. Not I'm sorry, but not if I offended you. Listen, a wise husband simply says, sorry, I was wrong. Those words require enormous emotional courage. But they also produce something remarkable. They lower defensiveness. They invite honesty. They restore dignity. They remind your wife that your marriage is more important than your image. Social psychologists have long noted that sincere apologies are most effective when they include responsibility rather than excuses. People are far more likely to forgive when they sense genuine accountability instead of reluctant compliance. A mature husband understands this. He apologizes because he values trust, not because someone forced him to. For example, let's consider a case of an anniversary that almost ended in silence. Jonathan was known among his friends as a dependable man. He never forgot work deadlines. He never missed important meetings. But one year, overwhelmed by a major business expansion, he completely forgot his wedding anniversary. His wife said nothing that morning. She said nothing that afternoon. But by evening, disappointment filled the house. Jonathan realized his mistake. His first instinct was to defend himself. I've been under enormous pressure. I've been working for this family. I've had too much on my mind. All those statements were true, But none of them addressed his wife's pain. Instead, he chose humility. There is no excuse. You deserve better from me. Then he said, I'm truly sorry. There were no lengthy explanations, no attempt to shift blame, only responsibility. Years later, his wife would tell friends, it wasn't the mistake that strengthened our marriage. It was the way he owned it. Let's also consider a case of a father who changed his son's future. One Saturday afternoon, Robert lost his temper with his teenage son over a simple misunderstanding. His voice echoed through the house. His wife watched silently. An hour later, after calming down, Robert walked into his son's room. He sat beside him. Sorry I spoke to you in a way I shouldn't have. I was wrong.
So grown-ups apologize too?
The good ones do. His wife watched the entire exchange from the hallway. Years later, she would say, that single moment changed how she saw her husband. His apology did more than repair a relationship. It established the culture of their family. Children rarely become what we tell them. They become what they repeatedly observe. An old Ghanaian proverb reminds us, the good tree is known by its fruit. Humility produces fruit that lasts for generations. Point number 4, the invisible cost of never apologizing. Imagine carrying a small stone in your pocket every day. It seems insignificant at first, but after weeks, months, years, its weight becomes exhausting. Unresolved pride works the same way. Every unspoken apology, every ignored hurt, every unresolved disagreement, every stubborn silence adds another stone to the marriage. Eventually, the emotional weight becomes unbearable. Many couples assume they drifted apart because they stopped loving each other. In reality, they often stop removing the stones. An old Italian proverb says, drops of water make a mighty ocean. The same principle applies in reverse. Small acts of pride repeated consistently can slowly drown even a loving marriage. Point number 5, when winning becomes losing. Many husbands can remember arguments they technically won. They presented stronger logic, better evidence, clearer facts. Their wife eventually became quiet. They considered it victory. But was it? Silence is not always agreement. Sometimes it is discouragement. Sometimes it is emotional withdrawal. Sometimes it is the moment a wife decides, it no longer feels safe to express myself. The mature husband understands that convincing someone is not the same as connecting with them. An old Irish proverb wisely says, a kind word never broke anyone's mouth. Kindness preserves what pride often destroys. Now, on a 6th point of note, let's observe the transformation that happens when humility creates emotional safety. When a husband consistently demonstrates humility, something extraordinary begins to happen. His wife becomes less afraid of making mistakes. Conversations become more honest. Disagreements become less threatening. The home becomes emotionally lighter. Why? Because humility is contagious. When one spouse consistently takes responsibility, the other often finds it easier to do the same. The marriage gradually shifts from blame to teamwork, from competition to cooperation, from self-protection to mutual growth. Humility is not weakness, it is emotional security in action. Point number 7, practical habits every husband should develop to keep pride from taking root. Ask yourself after every disagreement, what was my contribution to this conflict? Apologize promptly instead of waiting for emotions to harden. Avoid apologies that include excuses or hidden blame. Thank your wife when she respectfully points out something you can improve. Remember that correcting yourself strengthens your credibility rather than diminishing it. Choose restoration over reputation. These habits are small in the moment but profound over a lifetime. Now, as we conclude on the 4th law, here is the lesson to always remember. An old Japanese proverb says, the reputation of 1,000 years may be determined by the conduct of 1 hour. The same is true in marriage. One conversation handled with humility can heal months of tension. One sincere apology can reopen a heart that had begun to close. One act of courage can restore trust that pride almost destroyed. The mature husband understands that admitting fault is not an admission of failure. It is an investment in the future of his marriage. Because marriages are not sustained by perfection. They are sustained by two imperfect people who repeatedly choose humility over ego. Before we take on law number 5 in the next video, let's have a recap. By now, you have discovered 4 timeless laws. 1. Master yourself before you master the conversation. 2. Seek understanding before offering solutions. 3. Never turn your wife into the enemy. 4. Choose humility over pride. Yet there is another principle that separates extraordinary husbands from ordinary ones. It is most visible when emotions are at their highest. Anyone can show respect when everything is peaceful. But only a truly mature husband knows how to protect his wife's dignity in the middle of disagreement. And that is where we turn next. Law number 5, respect is most valuable during conflict. Thank you for watching. Please, if this message touched you, endeavor to share it with your loved ones. Also, remember to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and drop your comments for us. Bye for now.